You might be surprised to hear this, but I am now excited about a game that has been a little bit controversial. Let's just say somebody made a comment about it being $80. It's now been revealed that it's actually $70, and that is all most people talk about. The pricing structure, which I'll admit is somewhat problematic. But all that said, Borderlands 4 is fun. I actually got some hands-on time with it, and I wanted to share my thoughts now that I have played it for the first time. So, long story short, I'll cut to the chase about the story. I have no idea what is going on in this story, and I would like to keep it that way until the game launches this holiday. Now, I was invited last second out to a Borderlands fan fest happening here in the Los Angeles area, and I had a great time. I showed up late. I was able to stream some of my gameplay, learn the game a little bit. I killed the boss on the second try, and I actually got to interview the developers. I did all that in a 3-hour time period, and I walked away saying, you know what? I think Borderlands 4 will be great. Now, I know there's a lot of drama surrounding this game. I've seen all the comments, just even from my live stream posts. So let me just tell you what I got to experience and my thoughts on it. I have a few notes that I'll look to address off screen, just about what I want to talk about. Humor. So in the past, I have talked about the humor of the game and how I was sort of concerned that it wouldn't be there. I am happy to report that there's just enough of it to give that Borderlands feel from time to time. And you know, the guns still sort of say silly things when you throw them and they're doing their auto tracking or whatever, or sometimes they grow legs and then they track enemies or they go after enemies. So the whole vibe, the entire vibe of the game just has sort of that silly nature that Borderlands generally has. And I was really, really happy to see that. I like laughing every once in a while. I know it's crazy to talk about, but I do like games that at least try to be funny. And I remember the Borderlands game from Telltale. There were some really, really good one-liners in there. And I do remember that the Borderlands 3 game was a little bit contentious with fans, but I was one of the people that I'm like, hey, if you're going to try humor, go for it. It's not going to be for everybody, but I had a good time with it, and I was hoping they would do more of that. Thankfully, even in the short window, I was able to experience just enough of that sort of Borderlands feel that I was looking for, and it really drove things along. Now, it has a lot of the looting nature in the open world sections, and that's actually another thing I was concerned about. So in the open world, you're given all of this space. It is quite a large map, and I was worried, like, am I going to get bored going from point A to point B? Am I going to be finding points of interest? And at least in the short amount of time I got to play the game, that absolutely was not the case. Now, I'm going to be posting an interview I did with two of the developers on the game, and I did ask them this question, like, how do you keep it interesting? And they brought up things like weather. They're going to have a dynamic weather system, and there's going to be points of interest all over the map that you're going to be able to either choose to interact with, or you can continue on the main quest. But they even talked about how they trying to design the game in a way where you're not wandering off the beaten path, just kind of doing some random thing unless you choose to. You can go from point A to point B to point C, complete the main story, and be about your way. And they at least claim that there's not going to be a lot of backtracking. It kind of just sets you through the world, as games should, in my opinion. The more important thing, though, beyond humor, beyond world exploration, is gunplay. And gunplay feels exactly like Borderlands. Some of my favorite weapons included a sniper rifle that you would sort of charge up, and then it would do an even more powerful shot than before. There was a submachine gun that I would fire, and when the clip was empty, I would reload. That throws out the gun, which becomes a bomb. You could shoot the bomb for additional damage. It's sort of like a TDR mix with some of the other manufacturers, and that was a lot of fun. There was a bolt-action sniper rifle. Yes, I have a lot of fun sniping things in the Borderlands universe. And I had a lot of fun just messing around with whatever weapon I happen to have. There were two different character types I got to play as. I got to play as the Siren, and I got to play as the Soldier, and by far, I like the soldier. We'll save that one for just a second. Let's talk about the siren for a second, because the siren in this game seems to have the ability, the main ability of the siren anyway, is to summon a very ferocious feline, like battle cat type companion that really does a good job of keeping all of the enemies on the screen tied up. Will you decide how to plan your attack or throw some of those guns I mentioned earlier that grow legs and run towards the enemy and shoot them and then detonate on top of their head while controlling the battlefield. I found it a lot of fun. I like the siren quite a bit. Its superpower was basically an unlimited ammo weapon that would just shoot things indefinitely, and then when you run out of ammo, you kind of put that away. And I think all of that's okay, but by far the Exo Soldier was so much fun. They let us jump over to a level 20 version of that character, and within the level 20 version of that character, I was able to stat how I wanted, and I statted into damage, fire rate, and a turret that would basically attached to my back, and I would just get even more additional firepower. And if I chose to, I could press the button to activate that ability again, and this time it would create a mobile turret that would basically become like a pet that would be next to me and allow me access to my full range of abilities while it went back on its cooldown timer. But that was fun, and it did make you feel very powerful when you activated it. But what was even more fun was the throwing knife. I found myself squealing with glee every time I threw this throwing knife, and it was on such a quick cooldown that I kept getting it really, really quickly during a match. Or not during a match, during gameplay, and it was just so fun. It just made such a satisfying sound once it thunked into an enemy's cranium. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the game. Borderlands 4 gunplay, it's really living up to the expectations I have for Borderlands. I hope hardcore fans feel the same, but it's scratching all the itches that Borderlands should. And, you know, they added a sparrow just like Destiny had, but I found it to be very welcome, and it has some guns on it, and obviously there's going to be more that you can do there as you get further. But I didn't get that much time with the game. I got about an hour and a half, 2 hours of the game, so I'm trying to get everything that I can to you in terms of information. Speaking of information, I did actually get a legendary drop after defeating the boss. We'll talk about the legendary in a second. Let's talk about this boss fight. So they said that the boss fights, they're going to have more mechanics. The boss fight I had was with Inceptus, and I beat it basically on my second try. My first try, there's one mechanic where he kind of becomes in a chrysalis, and then you have to get off of the floor using your grapple and then go around the stage, and you stand up there and you damage the chrysalis until the chrysalis falls down. Then you go back into boss fight mode, basically. It took a long time, but I didn't find the fight particularly difficult. What you would really do is you would grapple onto him, pull off parts of his body, and then you would shoot his vulnerable spots on his body. I wasn't clear on how you avoided his attacks, but I had enough health that I could just repeatedly heal anytime I needed when I did get hit with one of them, and damage him until he died. And it wasn't like a crazy difficult boss fight or anything like that. Even one of the developers was like, hey, what did you think about the boss fight? Like, was it really hard? And like, I'm like, no, it wasn't particularly hard. It just felt like a boss fight. I figured out the mechanics pretty quickly. I don't think it was bad, but I was able to solve the riddle of this boss fight quite quickly. I do appreciate that there's a little bit more to the bosses than, you know, just shoot Bullet Sponge until Bullet Sponge dies. So I like that aspect of it, but no, I don't think like there was some big brain buster in terms of what I had to do against the boss. There was actually a mini boss before the boss that I was a little bit more confused about, where it just seemed invulnerable to damage. You have to hit a specific crit spot. That crit spot would create like a small wisp that would fly around, and you would have to shoot that to do damage to that character. And I thought that mechanic was actually it was a little bit more complex and harder to figure out initially, because I'm just like, all right, this is the last thing I have to kill. I don't really understand what I'm doing wrong here. I'll just keep shooting him and see what happens. And eventually I was even able to take that out. So I think if they start introducing those mechanics and then challenging you later with boss fight mechanics like that, then that could be an interesting opportunity for some interesting gameplay to take place. And when I defeated the boss on my second try, I got the legendary propelled double cream omnivore husky friend. It's a 32x10 shot. It's a shotgun. It's a husky auto turret. Perks are Torg licensed impact mag. It fires gyro jets that explode on impact, and it has TDR combo honing. So when you throw the gun when reloading, it becomes honing and can be shot to increase the explosive damage. I didn't really get to try it out. I fired it a few times. I got to read the description of it, but like the game didn't tell me how to leave, or like it was glitched or something. I couldn't leave the area. I didn't understand that mechanic of it. So I ended up getting stuck on the map and unable to actually go shoot an enemy and see how powerful it was. But pretty excited that I was one of the few people to actually get one of the best weapons to drop in the game from this boss encounter. Overall, yeah, the two enemy types, Vex, which is a Siren, and Rafa, who is an Exo Soldier. I am definitely going to main Rafa. My overall thoughts on the game are that I did not want to stop playing. It definitely scratched that itch that these types of games often do for me. As you know, I am a huge Destiny fan. I've played all of the mainline Borderlands games. I've played Borderlands 1, 2, and 3 to completion, and then usually I stop after beating the main campaign. But players really, really love these games, and I do think you're going to find something to like if you end up playing this Borderlands. Now, I didn't get to go deep dive or anything like that. I noticed that weapon drops did seem to be a lot lighter, like coveted weapon drops. You will get a lot of grays and greens, maybe a blue here and there, but mostly you open up the crates and it's just ammo. So a lot of times you're just picking up ammo and you're seeing fewer weapons in the open world. I did remember them bringing that up, and they're really quick to iterate on things like the mini map that Randy Pitchford was tweeting about and listening to fan feedback and everything. So I really appreciate last second getting invited out to this thing. I was skeptical like you were about Borderlands 4. You know, the pricing thing left a sour taste in a lot of our mouths. Just all of the drama around Borderlands 4 has been kind of a bummer, but having played it, I'm definitely going to be playing Borderlands 4 now. It was very fun. I am very happy that it was fun. I love these types of games, and it is nice to have a familiar playing ground to go back to, albeit with some changes. Let me know what you're thinking about Borderlands 4 in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you so much to the members, Chris Ferretti, Phil Aroni, Spingetter, and Aries EMS. I greatly appreciate you and your support. Thank you so much. If you want to support, you can click that join button and become a member, or you can become a member over at patreon.com/SaveStatePlus. I'm going to get out of here, but I think the most relevant video for this would probably be the interview that I'm going to post. So check that out, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.